Welcome to the Gig Show. I'm your host, Jim Dorman, and this is your co-host, Dan Cody.
Hey, Jim.
How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good, good. Pretty good. Anyway, just the last show we did with Lou Maresca was from live at the Fillmore, the definitive tribute to the Allman Brothers Band, and we talked a lot about Dickey Betts.
Yeah.
And just found out this week that Dickey Betts passed away at the age of 80, so just want to honor him a little bit today, and obviously we talked a lot about him. What do you think about Dickey Betts?
Oh, incredible. I mean, not only a great guitarist,
Right.
But also a great songwriter. Sometimes,
Yes.
If you don't really look at the credits on an album of who wrote what,
Right.
Somebody gets positioned as the guitar player or one of the co-lead guitar players, but he was also a great songwriter. So.
Yeah,
he had both talents.
That's a huge point, and I think and as I'm seeing like tributes come in to him, right as we heard that he passed. That's one of the things a lot of people said and maybe didn't know, and I think that was kind of in the beginning. He was kind of everybody always talks about taking a back seat to Duane Allman, but I think Duane encouraged him to write and also to, well, I don't know about write, definitely sing.
Yeah.
Because like Blue Sky, I think was the first song that he actually sang on. And I think he was hesitant to sing on it first, which sounds crazy today.
Yeah, he might not have had the
right.
The thinking that, well, I'm really not a singer. I can play, I can write, but it's great to hear that they encouraged, rather than somebody saying, "Oh, I'll sing it," or give him that spotlight.
Well, I always thought was the cool thing was. He was known for great instrumentals that he wrote, which were really a highlight. Like "In Memory of Elizabeth Reed" was the first one, and that was on I forget which original album. I should know that. It might have been Idlewild South, but it was on at Fillmore East, and and I love what Duane says. Here's a song, Dickey Betts, but Dickey Betts wrote. Right. He'd always give him credit before the song, which I thought they should have always kept that forward, even when he wasn't in the band later on. But and one of the cool things I thought was Greg Allman, before he passed out, even though they had clashed, started doing when he did Southbound, which we mentioned with Lou Maresca, that he started saying, this is a song Dickey Betts wrote, which was kind of huge at the time because they hadn't talked in a long time. So anyway, and Lou obviously... is affected by this, and I guess he went out last night or the night before and played with a band. They asked to play Blue Sky, and because Live at the Fillmore wasn't playing. But anyway, so well, and we're it's kind of relevant to our show today because we got a good friend from Weymouth. Who a lot of Weymouth guys are big Allman Brothers friends, and I know this guy. This guy is. We're having our guest today, Jim Melody.
Yes.
Who. I've known for a long time. I think you've known for a pretty long time, and a lot of different relationships with him. People in Weymouth and maybe outside of Weymouth might know him as the I don't want to get the proper title, I guess. He's on Ask the Mayor show with Mayor Bob Hedlund in Weymouth on their cable channel, so he's the the citizen advocate, I think, is what he goes by. Basically, he asks the questions to Mayor Bob, and they have a heck of a good time. So they've been doing the show since 2016 when Mayor Hedlund became mayor, and they do it like once or twice. I think there are like 105 shows that you can see on the WETC website. They're not on YouTube like our show is on YouTube. You can get it, but you can get it on their website. See, they just have a blast.
Good for them.
Serious questions about things going on in town, but they have a lot of fun with it, a lot of laughs, which is really cool. But then, but some other people might know Jim for his big Christmas hit from a few years back.
Christmas in Boston.
Christmas in Boston,
great one.
and which is it was on. Oh, he sang it at the Christmas tree lighting after I think it became popular, but it got picked up by I think it was WODS, the old oldies radio station that was situated at WBZ. I remember seeing them there when I went to visit one time, and it's no longer there, but there are still other people out there. I think the River 92.5 plays it like every year, and people ask for it. It's kind of cool, infectious type of song.
Great Christmas song.
Very Christmas, and he did it at the time with a little news outlets, and a few articles about it. And like I said, the Christmas tree lighting in Boston Common is kind of cool. I don't know how many, I know he did it. I think he did it more than once. I know he did it at least once, and the video of that is out there. And we're gonna have him on and sort all this out. But first, Jim's actually gonna sing "Christmas in Boston" for us right here. So
awesome.
So here's Jim Melody with "Christmas in Boston." We'll be back right after, as I said, to sort things out.
Fa la 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 la. Fa la 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 la. Skating in circles on Boston Common. There may be 4 seasons, but tonight it's snow. The ducks are lined up outside the public gardens. They're getting excited to see the show. And through the clouds a sleigh was sighted as traffic crawled through town. In the air were reindeer flying. Guess who's back around? Ho, 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 and fa la la, it's a Massachusetts Christmas, wherever you are, fa la la, and holy night, it's Christmas in Boston tonight. Wise men in Cambridge, angels at Mass General, Mary and Joseph will do just fine. A star in the heavens, Gabriel's sonnet, good news for Boston and all mankind. And in the air, the snow kept falling, a peaceful melody. Joy and cheer on our toboggan, you could hear the people sing. Ho, 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 and fa la la, it's a Massachusetts Christmas, wherever you are, fa la la, and holy night, it's Christmas in Boston tonight. Fa la 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 la, fa la 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 la, fa la 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 la.
All right, welcome back to the Gig Show. We got our guest, Jim Melody here. Great performance. Hey, welcome to the Gig Show, Jim.
Thank you for having me, Jim. Needless to say, I'm excited to be here with some of my old compadres.
Well, Weymouth guys, right? So
all 3 of us.
That's right. That's right. I was going to start off before we had a few things like Mr. Betts passing away, who I know you're a big fan.
Yeah, I don't know anybody who isn't.
Right, the Allman Brothers and stuff like that. But I was going to talk about people.
Wait a minute, Jim, is this above your mantle at home? Did you take that from on the fireplace?
I honestly, because I got to interview him, they sent me a publicity photo at some point. This is a long time ago, and I kept just the page. JPEG. I said I got to get this, so I had it printed. So I've had this. I didn't make it for I had this already all set up, and it's not a photo I see. Even though it's a publicity photo, it's not one.
It's a great photo.
I see, but he just has that intensity. There's something about the way he played, like. We're going more along about it. Don't get me started, but like a lot of groups have frontmen and stuff like that, or they do something. Bands that anybody you want to talk about Aerosmith or whatever, they're gonna dress a certain way, and Led Zeppelin or whoever. But the Allman Brothers are always kind of we're gonna play. Greg Allman just sat behind the keyboards and stuff like that. But Dickey Betts, when he was out front, when he was just playing, the way he his kind of way his look on his face or the intensity or just whatever he did, it was like a show. It just had that. I was drawn to it.
the first time we saw him was at. We're all in a similar demographic here. He played up at UMass for my senior year concert. For you folks at home, the senior year concert at UMass Amherst in 1983 was Bonnie Raitt opened for the Grateful Dead, and the Allman Brothers were the closer at that little football stadium up at UMass. Yeah, those three acts were your senior concert at UMass Amherst in '83.
You probably saw the Grateful Dead.
I saw the Dead more than once, but I wasn't huge Dead, and I wasn't huge Allman to be as hopefully I'll demonstrate or will be demonstrated through my performance here today.
Yeah.
I was always more drawn to the acoustic side.
Okay, well, let me just stop you right there, then, because as you might remember, my very first concert I ever went to was actually Bobby Vinton at the Weymouth Fairgrounds.
Oh, hey now, hey now!
I know that. I went with my parents. I was probably like
Bobby Vinton.
Bobby
at the
Vinton,
Weymouth
but I
Fairgrounds.
knew who Bobby Vinton was because I always watched all those, Mike Douglas or
Sure.
Merv Griffin or whatever, and so Blue Velvet and
Of course.
Yeah.
So I was probably 9 or 10 probably. It was because they closed in like 72, I think, the fairgrounds. But anyway, so that was a good one. But the second concert I ever went to, and that was kind of more on my own, was I tagged along with you and a few other people to see James Taylor.
You're going to say Brockton High School.
Brockton High School.
Folks can believe that. James Taylor, Brockton High School. And what was that by 76, I want to say?
Yeah, I think we were juniors, so yeah, probably is either 76 or early 77.
My first concert.
Was it your first concert?
Yeah.
That's your first concert.
Yeah. Very influential, very impactful.
And we got to see James Taylor, who was huge at the time, in the gymnasium.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget, Jim, I don't really remember a lot from anything past yesterday, to be God's honest truth with you, but he did, I don't know if you recall, he did that song, I really can't stay, boy, it's cold outside.
Oh,
and he played it with the reel-to-reel. He played it as duet with the pre-recorded track on a reel-to-reel that he went on stage with.
Wow.
I thought it was a cool
It sat right behind him, so like when he was singing like that or Shower the People, all of a sudden it would just, and it was kind of dramatic because the reels would start going.
You could literally see that,
Right
the
behind
ones
him.
with those like 10-inch canisters.
He did have, at one point, this guy, I don't think I pronounced his name right, Greg or Craig Dorgy, who was one of those guys that was a piano player. Played a song too. Was who some of those guys played with everybody.
Correct.
On their stuff. But it was the reason he was playing at Brockton High Gymnasium was it was a benefit for the Fuller Art Museum. So it was kind of so it was normally James Taylor's not going to be nothing against Brockton High.
Right. But he was
still we got seats. I was just tagging along with our old friend, the Snake Gardner, I believe.
He was filling big arenas around there.
Sure. Yeah, so it was amazing that that we got
on the cover of Time magazine in '72.
Yeah. So we go way back to that. We were in Miss Atkinson's English class, junior English class.
Still trying to master that language, both of us.
That's right. She was something. We were reading like Huckleberry Finn or Tom Sawyer, one of those two. And
I wonder if they let people read that these days.
No, I know. Well, there was the languages in there, and she pointed out because it was she understood and we understood what he was trying to say. I think we kind of bonded a bit on that because we were both pretty good in the English language arts.
And we both ran away from home with one of those sticks and a bandana on the back of our shoulders at 14.
But anyway, so that was like I just want to say though we just listened to you do Christmas in Boston and I just as much as I know you as a fun-loving guy and do some fun songs, those songs have kind of a really good feeling to it. I really like the way you just used the space. I don't know, it's like little pauses and things that just kind of just hits you.
I appreciate Jim. As I know you both know, I am an amateur songwriter and. But it's interesting. I think, and for anybody out there, this just goes in Abington, right? In the great town.
No, we're on YouTube, so whoever wants to watch
the world.
I can honestly say I feel like I held myself back because, as we also will cover, I'm sure, and we were covering before we started rolling tape. I end up, I'm a poor kid. We're all poor kids from Weymouth who I couldn't get out of this town and area fast enough, so I go right down to New York City. Yeah. And I moved to Manhattan, and there's a ton of buddies who are trying to make it as comedians and actors, and I never try to put myself out there in that category because I didn't think I had the training or the background or the education or, quite frankly, the gumption, and the I don't know if you let it out, but the cojones to get out on the street, because everybody's their own worst critic, and you think that my stuff couldn't possibly be good enough, and I'm not trained to write a song or perform in public, but really and truly, my message at the end of this little delivery is if you feel like you have it in you, throw it out there because you never know who's going to attach themselves to it, and all the stuff that you are connected to are the things that I thought people wouldn't be interested in. It's homey, it's kind of homemade, you know. Who's going to care about, you know, my perspective on anything? And it resonates, and it is organic, and you know, and heartfelt, and people can connect to that, I think, on any level. So, you know, throw it out there and let other people decide that, you know, whether they can connect to it or not. You know, don't you presume that people won't connect to it.
Yeah, because you may think something's not that good, and you put it out there, somebody may think it's one of the best things they've ever heard.
No doubt about it. And anybody who, you know, now that I was lucky enough, my song ended up playing on 30 radio stations throughout New England, and, you know, I had all these grandiose ideas. Oh, it's going to go across the free world. You know, things, you know, not everything progresses that far at the end of the day, but if you don't at least throw it out there, you never know where it's going to go, and you know, stranger things have happened, I suppose.
But for people that might not know, it did get picked up for
I did,
was it WODS or was something else first?
Yeah, I did. What happened was anybody who, I know Jimmy's a fine player, and I'm not sure if you play as well, but almost anybody who does play and write has a million half songs. Everybody, you know, gets excited about you know, there's a spark of creativity, there's an impetus to start writing something, and then halfway through it you stop because either you're so self-critical you don't think it's, you know, it's worth, you know, finishing, or it's difficult. People get writer's block, and it's, you know, it's easy to start things, not as easy to finish them. But I totally lost my thought, to be honest with you. Why are we talking about what I was?
Well, it's just kind of how did it germinate, go from the song that you wrote to getting recorded and then getting.
So I was trying to think of the impetus for that Christmas song. So I started Christmas in Boston, and when I moved down to New York City, I was living in Manhattan, and we're all from this area, as we discussed. It was my first Christmas away from this area, and I was heartfelt and forlorn. I didn't end up coming home. I'm one of 7 kids. You know, it was a big deal to me at the time. And I'm sitting at home in my apartment, my crappy little apartment in New York City, and I wrote the first verse of Christmas in Boston, you know, with tears in my eyes, wishing I was home, which is essentially a reflection of all the memories we had when we were little, as far as, you know, my memories of this area. Then it's on the shelf for 15, 20 years, arguably, and then my wife and I were trying to reproduce. We were struggling with that process, and then out of literally nowhere, it seemed a miracle occurred, and we ended up getting, you know, my wife ended up getting pregnant. We ended up having our child, and I was so excited. It was provided the impetus for me to finish the song, because the second verse is really about the birth of my child in an opaque way, if you listen to the lyrics. And what I ended up doing was I in the interest of getting the birth announcement out, I went into a recording studio to send that out as the literal birth announcement. Oh. So I put a 3-song CD together with that one, with Who Will Buy from the play Oliver.
You're kidding
Christmas,
me.
yeah, which I love that song too. And Let It Snow. And I sent all the 3 out to probably 100 people that would be on my Christmas card list. And at the time, I was working in Boston radio and TV. As you know, my formal profession, where I've been able to make a couple bucks, was selling advertising. And so I worked for a lot of the Boston radio and TV stations, and I sent it out to, you know, again, my Christmas card list, but among them was probably half the people who were in the industry in some way or form. And one of the persons I sent the CD out to was a salesperson at ODS, which at the time was the Christmas, Oldies 103.3 was the Christmas music station in Boston. And they brought it in and played it for the program director. A lot of people don't know, DJs don't pick their own music at a radio station. The program director selects the music that you'll hear, and it's a very involved process. And anyway, he brought it into the guy's office, and he played him the song. And the program director, Pete Falcone, I won't forget that conversation. He called me up out of nowhere, who I knew of. I did not know him. And Pete calls me up and says, "Hey, I just heard your song. I want to put it on the radio." You know, I thought it was a joke, obviously. And he said, "Oh, I'll play it this Friday." And he played Blue Christmas by Elvis, White Christmas by Bing Crosby. It was about 6:12 on that Friday night. It was the Friday before Christmas. And then Christmas in Boston. And I was with my mother and my sister. We were bawling like babies. And,
that's so great.
And it came out of nowhere. And I can proudly say, and this is the truth as far as I know, I'm the first person and the only person in the history of major market radio. Boston's a top 10 media market in the country. And I'm the first person to get on primetime in radio is Monday through Friday, 7A to 7P. I'm the first person to get on primetime Boston radio without a record company or an agent representing them. Because I'll spare you, I know we only have a half hour here, but the way songs get on the radio, you need to have a record company. That's why people want to be signed by a record company. They have a representative who meets with the agent, director, right, an agent, to get you on the air. The guy just heard my song, put it on the air, and then because he started playing it, ODS is Boston's the #1 market in all of New England, but you know it's all based on the size of the market. And Boston's a 4 million person marketplace. And when he started playing it, all the other Christmas music stations in like Springfield, Massachusetts, or Worcester, Mass, or Burlington, Vermont, or Portland, Maine. They look to see what they're playing, and they'll replicate it in their own markets. So they all started picking up the song, and by next Christmas, I'm on over 30 radio stations throughout New England because ODS ended up Pete ended up putting my song on the radio. Yeah. So really quite a unique and cool story, and I will say, I know we're going to cover a lot of ground here, but the inspiration for and the reason why we ended up being able to reproduce was the great folks at the Mass General Hospital for Children, and we've always
those kids are now
Riley is a 19-year-old, and she's a freshman at down in Elon, North Carolina. Ryan's at Weymouth High School as a sophomore. But the I've always donated all the proceeds from the sales of the CDs and live performances to the Mass General Hospital for Children. As a matter of fact, in lieu of our appreciation for all they did for my wife and I. So it's a cool story.
It was a great time, obviously knowing you, and I remember it was on this radio like every hour or something.
Yeah, ODS was playing it 3 times a day. That's what they call heavy rotation.
Maybe an exaggeration, but I mean, I'd look for it, listen, and everybody, classmates, we get excited. I love the video from the Christmas tree lighting. It was just amazing that you get to do that.
Well, I will encourage everyone, if you could, go to YouTube, James Melody, check out Christmas in Boston. So I used to work for CBS Television, Channel 4, and I hired one of the producers there to produce a video of me. I've opened up the Christmas tree lighting ceremony on the Common, as I know you know, 3 of the last probably 15 years. And I hired him to shoot me on stage, but I'm only in the video for less than 5% of the video. 95% of the video, as you know, as you've seen it.
All the different scenes.
Yeah, it's stock footage. It's CBS stock footage for the last 10 years of Boston in the Christmas season in the Boston market. He had all access to all those files, and he put together the Pete Slavish, the great Pete Slavish shot me. The way he shot it looks like Woodstock, obviously. It looks like there's
looks like a lot of people.
4 million people there, but the vast majority. Yeah, it is. That's what I tell people. I said, whether you love or hate my song, the video is world class. You get a big kick out of it.
I love the dance break.
Yeah, I'm working on my moves still. And I will tell you in closing, as far as I can answer any questions you want about it. But it's interesting. We've already covered my amateur status, and I'm honestly a ham and egger and no more talented, or probably less talented than the two of you guys are on. I'd never considered myself a great musician. However, I was able to craft that song, and I know we're in Abington, but this is a great studio guy in Marshfield, Joe Merrick, Guilty Dog Studios. If anybody's out there with dreams of putting something together, I'm going to give a plug for Joe, because Joe was my producer. Joe put that whole thing together. And the impact, you write that song, and again, who would ever care about it? I started getting emails. Pete would forward me the emails from mothers who had sons in the military that they were away from home for the first time in their lives. And I'm going to start crying talking about these women typing me these emails saying, he's away, but we watched the video together. Honestly, I'm getting the chills telling you the story. And we connected, and one of the best ones was the Simmons College swim team, the first year that it was on. This woman typed into Pete and asked if there's any way we could send the lyrics to the Simmons College swim team, and Pete said, why? And the woman said, we were coming across the bridge on last Sunday night from our swim meet, and we're in the van with the team, and the song came on. Nobody ever heard it. I started crying, telling the story, and everybody started crying in the van. And there's a deaf girl on the team who couldn't hear the song, and she was wondering why everybody was crying in the van, listening to the song. I'm seriously getting the chills, and I'm getting a little tear in my eye. And to think that you would impact, and she wanted me to send the lyrics so that they could read them to the woman, the deaf girl who couldn't hear the song, because they were so impacted by the song. And it's like, wow, you never think now I fully understand why they call it art. I never thought of myself as an artist, and I still don't, but the fact that art impacts people, it produces an emotion, and this emotion, that I couldn't believe I could draw that out of folks with something I created, and it's pretty heavy. And
I think I told you before. We were good friends with your brother Paul.
Yep.
And who's passed away like 25 years ago.
Yeah, we lost my brother Paul, the great Paul Melody. We lost Paulie in 2001, about 2 months after 9/11, unfortunately.
Okay, so
dropped dead suddenly at 44, fit as a fiddle. Right. And so very impactful, very sad, and I wrote a song about that. And
so you would, and I mean, at the time, I was just kind of like, I went to the memorial and everything, and I just kind of couldn't quite, I don't know what it was, because he was such a good friend and everything, but I was like,
it was shocking.
It was just the whole thing. It was a little stunned, but when I listened to your song.
By the way, he dropped dead working out on his exercise bike, by the way. There was no nefarious, foul play. I think it was just shocker and sudden.
I wouldn't have been surprised if it was foul.
Yeah, and we were all in the foul play business.
He was a great guy. We always always, just so many fun times that I had that wouldn't have, or things I did, I wouldn't have done if it wasn't. And he was really supportive when I started writing for the Ledger.
Right.
And I sent him a few. He asked, send me like copies. I can't believe you're doing this, like interviewing some people. And he was like, this was probably right before, because I started in 2000.
Yeah.
So, and I sent him a couple of copies, and he was just like, wow, that's me. That's so cool that you're doing. But anyway, as I said, the song that you wrote for him, I was listening to that when you came, was it a CD or EP?
Yeah, I have a CD out as well.
Yeah, right. So anyway, so it hit me then.
Yeah, it's heavy, and it's again, we probably start covering the same basis here,
Right.
but that impact that who would ever think that you or I could write something that would impact somebody that way, and it was just a release for me personally, but when it connects other people, it's really it's an honor, really. It's something that's very difficult to describe, and I'm on such a small scale, and you think of these people who are on a larger scale. It's really something.
And you said it was 15-year from the first verse to the second.
Yeah, essentially. I mean, I've not chronicled exactly, but I've got, and as I said, we're talking to a few guys all right. I've got a notebook full of half songs, and so it's interesting what inspires that one. Actually, they don't all come out that way. That song I wrote for Paul, I wrote in probably 5 minutes. Some of them, not 5, but maybe 10. Some of them come out a little easier than others for sure. And then, of course, getting back to the Christmas song very quickly, you have to be careful. The process is interesting because, again, we're not trained, but it turned out when that first version of Christmas in Boston that I did, I lifted the melody line from a song, not purposely in any way, shape, or form, but I actually have tried to sell it, on a national level, and there's a guy in Nashville that has had a lot of success, and I sent it down to him, and as soon as I sent it down, he said, you got to change the melody on the first verse. I said, what the hell are you talking about? And he said, it sounds just like, people get ready, the train's coming. You don't need no, and I'm like, what the heck? I knew it when he said it, but when I wrote the song, skating in circles, common. It was not purposeful, but it, no doubt about it, it's lifted.
Even the Beatles talk about. Paul McCartney talks about that. Certain something. This must be something. So I checked with somebody because I didn't know. You might. Well,
he said that about yesterday.
Yeah. Okay.
Scrambled eggs.
Right.
But it is a common thing, and certainly anybody who's watching your show, it's in the news these days almost every other month. Ed Sheeran just came off a huge trial. It's an easy thing to do because as everybody knows who plays it.
Hotel California.
It's only 7 chords.
You went. The other songs you did, was that like after you did Christmas in Boston?
Well, after that was so inspiring to get on the radio out of the way I did. I was like, hey, let's write a few more.
Right.
And as we now know, it's certainly a lot more difficult. And you were kind enough to comment on.
Yeah.
I wrote a Patriots fight song that I'm very proud of.
Yeah.
That I thought would naturally, Patriots need a fight song, and this was 8 years ago when we were rolling, and this is going to go, catch on like wildfire. And I, again, in this particular instance, I was purposely trying to lift from the shipping up from Boston.
Oh, right.
Because that became so popular. So I have,
Murphy's kind of thing.
And it's got two. The song has two paces to it. And the first part of the song, I was purposely trying to steal from the Green Beret song when we were little. Remember that song, 100 Man? The snare drum playing in the background, and then I wanted to the chorus to rip into the like shipping up to Boston. And I believe I've achieved it. It's not, again, I didn't steal. In this case, it's more thematic than the melodic as far as the actual what I chose to use. But that was my goal, and I thought I was on my way to the races, and I'm still at the starting line. So what breaks through and what doesn't is I know it's an age-old conundrum for even the big hit makers. They say somebody asked me to write a hit. I don't know. I didn't know that was going to be a hit, and I can't believe this one wasn't.
Right. Sometimes there's no logic to it. Huh?
Yeah.
Whatever you know.
As it turns out, for sure. Which again gets back to let's keep going with it. If you do write, if you have anything, whether you're going to write the next great American novel or a poem or sonnet or a song, put it out there. In this day and age, it's relatively easy. Who connects to it? You'll never know.
We were talking about some comedians stuff like that. They all talk about bombing or trying something out. They never, don't know what's going to work, or maybe it doesn't. Maybe it works with one crowd, it doesn't work with another, right?
Who were some of your influences growing up for writing and songs?
It's a great question, and I can answer it easily because I was one of my summer jobs was when I was a teenager. I worked in the janitorial department at the Quincy Courthouse, which I visited which I visited in many capacities through my years. there was an older cool guy that worked there, and I said to him, what music would you recommend? And this is when everybody, Jimmy's crowd was cranking out Jethro Tull and Led Zeppelin and stuff. I missed that whole, and Almonds. I kind of missed that whole phase, and he recommended 3 albums. James Taylor's Greatest Hits, Jimmy Buffett, Living and Dying in 3/4 Time, which most people don't know. It's I think it was his first album. It's the one that has Come Monday on it, and no hit per se. And there's a great folk musician, which you guys probably know, David Bromberg.
Oh yeah,
it's called Midnight on the Water, and it was
my 3rd concert.
Oh yeah, and we ended up back then. I know
Maria
back
Muldaur.
then, he was an idol for us, in a certain genre. I don't know if you know his stuff. It's bluegrass and it's fiddles and it's acoustic.
Great guitar player.
He's phenomenal.
He played with Jerry Jeff Walker guitar.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. He does a great version of Mr. Bojangles too on that album, as a matter of fact. But he's phenomenal. David Bromberg. It's called Midnight on the Water, and those are the first 3. And so for the rest of my life, I missed all that. Like I said, the heavy metal. Most 16, 15-year-olds are cranking, headbanging. Alice Cooper.
I don't know who Bob Hedlund is talking about. I don't know any of those bands.
What Bobby?
Saxon and
he's heavy metal.
A UFO.
Yeah, Bobby.
I missed all that.
Yeah, as we said, we're Weymouth guys, and Bob Hedlund's a good friend of all of ours. And Bobby is an awesome dude, great trivia guy, but a heavy metal headbanger from way.
He
back
knows
when.
other stuff too, but I can tell that's
Yeah, well,
some of that.
No doubt. Well, I matriculated towards the Beatles as opposed to the Stones, to probably nobody's surprise. And he actually met Paul McCartney, for heaven's sake.
Yes.
Oh,
I'm
Jesus.
like, yeah, I know, along the way. So those influences really took me in a particular direction. And I would say, a lot of people, when they first heard my Christmas in Boston song, said it had a James Taylor-y sound to it, which was thrilling to me.
That's impressive. 3 albums to
hard
upon somebody.
Well, it would end up becoming my jumping off point, like I said. But it took me in a totally different direction than I would say 80% of our peer group.
Now, for me, like I had older brothers that they were playing things, and that's where I heard these things. That's where I got all these influences, especially from my brother Jerry, who's 5 years older than me. But what was it for you, like, growing up? How did you?
Yes, similar. Although my brother was passing out the lefts and the rights along with the CDs.
Well, we did a little of that too.
That's what an older brother's for, right? They were listening to Almonds for sure. They were, if I'm going to say Fairport Convention, do you remember Fairport Convention at all? And the Moody's.
Yeah, some people just went and saw who's the lead singer.
I'm not sure, but
Richard,
come all ye roving minstrels.
Yeah.
But the Moody Blues were huge with that crowd too. So yeah, I used to hear them play the first Beatles album. I definitely remember.
Beatles was
Johnny Murray playing "Money Can't Buy Me Love."
It was all around you.
Things. Yeah, for sure. But again, I think it was on the softer. It's interesting because Weymouth certainly is very heavily Irish and Italian, and my father used to have the Irish music station on quite a bit. But I don't think I know one Irish song to this date. I didn't go in that direction either.
Right.
But I did try. I was around in New York City with a bunch of guys who were trying to make it as comedians and actors, but I guess not surprisingly, nobody really was trying to make it as a musician per se. But in the clubs, down in Bleecker Street or in the Village, there'd always be all kinds of amateur nights where you'd have a stand-up guy and then an acoustic guy, and that inspired me. But like I said, I'm in the crowd. I never had the guts to go. But gee, I should give it a whirl.
When did you get a guitar?
The first, my mother bought me. Mom, we love you. Mom, I'm looking up.
Nice.
She bought me a harmony guitar. Before I went to UMass Amherst, and I went up there as a 17-year-old back then. My birthday's November 1st, so I was a freshman. I'm 17.
December 12th.
Yeah, so you're same thing in college.
I turned 18. I was like in finals.
So we're 17, and the drinking age was 16. No, 8.
It went up right then, though.
Yeah, right around that time.
Yeah.
But she bought me a harmony guitar. With the strings, the action on the bridge was raised. It was 4 inches up, and I couldn't really manage it.
I couldn't do it.
So I go to, but I brought it up to UMass with me, and there were 2 guys on my floor. The great Robbie Schott was one of them, and he would be patient enough to sit with me and teach me a few chords. But he was playing Almonds, and he could play Johnny B. Good on he had a Les Paul, and he could play the backwards behind his head. It was phenomenal. But they're not vocalists, and I think really where I end up, matriculating more seriously down that path was I was always more interested in singing. And so, I still don't regard myself as a strong musician or a great guitar player, and it's really just a compliment or an adjunct to the singing and the entertaining part of the whole thing.
Well, some of the great songwriters over time were people who weren't really trained musicians. They weren't singers, they weren't performers, but they could come up with these songs and make a very basic demo, give that to a producer, and somebody else would take it and run with it.
Yeah, I know that now, but I wish I was more informed of that, because, like I said, those are the type of things that held me back from not trying to put my stuff out, to see if it would get accepted.
Right.
Because it's really so random. We've seen a lot of people trying to make it in that entertainment business again. I'm at New York City for 10 years. I worked for Radio City Music Hall for 2 years, and you've seen, so many people who you thought were the funniest and the most talented, and they don't go anywhere, and then you see a person who could walk into the business tomorrow and end up becoming a big star, and who goes forward, who gets kept back. It's really so random.
It's kind of a conundrum to the. I keep hearing people say that the different performers that have made it. It's like, or there's the guy next to him, or this guy made it. What's the secret?
I'll never We talked earlier before the cameras were rolling. I had a friend that worked for MTV, so I used to go over to a lot of the MTV sets, and I'll never forget when Pauly Shore came in. I mean, this guy's. You'd have to bleep me out if this guy is horrible. He's talentless, and he's probably the most famous actor, or the most, the busiest, most working actor for, the most of the 80s.
He might have more going than we give credit, because I heard the same story from our, I don't want to say who said it, but they said basically that's who they used as the example. They said, like, I do this, and Pauly Shore's got a movie. But his mother was the, Bitsy Shore had the comedy store, so he probably, obviously he was around every great comedian.
And his father had, his mother, Bud Friedman had the comedy, was it the improv? There's improv roots, I know, because my buddy Cohen, this kid from Longmeadow, was the MC at the improv for quite some time, and there was definitely an improv connection at some point as well. So, it's in his family for sure. But you just need the right agent. It's more important to have the right agent, obviously.
I had the right timing once. I pulled up on Daytona Beach. They let you drive on Daytona Beach.
Yeah.
And, they can drive like 5 miles an hour, like on Daytona Beach, cars going. And I pulled right up. There's a red Mustang with a bunch of people, and I don't know what that's going on. And it's Pauly Shore and Rodney Dangerfield.
Oh, hey now.
Filming the MTV Spring Break thing, and so we were like driver's side to driver's side, and I happened to have my camera, so.
How cool is that?
And Pauly was cool. Like Rodney was not. Rodney was like, hey. He's in the picture, but Pauly actually leaned back so I'd have both of them in the shot.
I'd want to see that one for sure. Dangerfield used to advertise, as we've covered again off camera. I used to work for magazines in New York City, and Dangerfield used to advertise in the magazine. So we used to have. Most of the clubs, when they advertise with you, they make you take the deals for like $10,000. You get $5,000 in cash, but $5,000 like tickets or a trade, So I was at Dangerfield quite a bit, and Seinfeld, before Seinfeld had the show, was renowned. My buddies who were the comedian guys, he was his idol, and I've already mentioned Ray Romano and Jon Stewart off camera. Seinfeld and Romano were distinctive in Stewart because they didn't swear on stage, and that they worked clean.
Yeah,
that is, any comedian can get on stage and go, "Hey, everybody, F you," and everybody starts laughing, But to work clean was distinctive, and Seinfeld was clean as a whistle. And then after this act, he'd hang out at the bar. So you go up and talk to him, and we talked to him on more than one occasion. And just a heck of a nice guy, about 5 years older than us, maybe a few more years older. Wore the suit, coat, and the tie on stage, and you always knew those guys seemed to be going. They were going someplace.
Yeah, it's our mutual friend. We were talking about Jackie Flynn. He just heard him tell a story about Seinfeld asking him, for advice way back before he had his show and
no kidding.
That kind of stuff. And said, but that was the same. They were talking about like how you go to the bar and it might be like a millionaire guy there with a guy who's just doing the open mic or something, kind of a strange group of folks.
It's an
but I love that.
business. It's an interesting business. Yeah. Again, you never know who's going to make it and who's going to break out for sure. But I can tell you, unfortunately, this demand is high, demand is low and supply is high. There's just so many people who try to do it to break through, and it's one in the you're just probably at the same odds as if you buy the winning lottery ticket.
How about gigs? You playing gigs?
I have been playing out a little bit more lately, and hopefully, again, James Mellon, I'm going to get my social media, the biggest chink in the armor is my social media presence, being 135 years old. My tech game is weak, so I got to get that together, and then I am going to start playing out a little bit more. We were talking earlier. I had been playing. I've gotten into the habit of trying to get gigs where I don't have to bring in and set up my sound equipment, which might sound a little unusual for those who haven't seen it. But when you do play out in bars, a lot of folks who don't play out in bars don't realize that those guys don't make any money, basically. And even if you're seeing like a band in a bar, you're lucky if there's a 5-piece band. If that band's getting $500, it's probably a lot. And in the old days, you'd get an open bar tab and a meal, and they took all that away because of they can't be liable.
Economics.
So it's you really, as the old joke is about the guys who play out. I play for free. They pay me to move the equipment.
Right.
Because playing is a gas. You're a rock star, and but the hour loaded into your car and the hour drive to the gig and the hour set up. It's an 8-hour night for that $100, and it's 150 or whatever, 200 if you're lucky.
Yeah.
So there's not a lot of dough in it. So I've gotten into the habit of walking in and trying to get gigs where I don't have to set up the equipment, but I'll walk around the bar just playing, like a mariachi band at a Mexican restaurant, or a violin player at an Italian restaurant. And the vibe is awesome. When it works, the sense of community it builds is phenomenal. But most bar owners want the guy in the corner at the end of the day.
Right.
And also a lot of bars these days have installed their own sound equipment, so you can just walk in, like the next page in Weymouth, the Snug in Hingham. You can just walk in, plug and play. They've already got the sound equipment installed.
Yeah.
So that makes it,
nice
that makes it a lot easier as far as taking the gig.
How was your 2-day gig in Brockton?
We did we were talking earlier. If we're close enough, Brockton Beer Works is right on the main drag there. It's an awesomely new business down there. Brockton is in development for sure. They're revitalizing the downtown in a very large way, and these guys are the first ones in. It's a minority-owned business. They're dynamite operators. The food is top-notch. If you're a craft beer guy, the beer is phenomenal,
right.
And we just played down there for St. Patrick's Day weekend.
Right.
And again, he allows me to just come in and play. And we got, sooner or later, we're back into the '70s, Jimmy. We got another. We got those old Cape Cod happy hour things going on where everybody's singing along, and it's an absolute gas.
Well, like I said, unfortunately, we're going to have to we're going to wrap up. But I just want to say that your heartfelt songs. We talked a lot about that, and but you always were able to kind of bring out the fun, And as I was
Thank
a
you.
quick story that I'm sure you remember. It was a rainy day down in Harwich in the place called the 400 Club, and a few of us had gravitated there somehow back in the probably late '80s or something, and in walks. With the guitar, unofficial happy hour, it begins to commence. I think the owner was a little worried after a while, but it was all the fun hits.
You know what? Because my buddies, I had 3 or 4 buddies who I mentioned who were peripheral friends with my buddy Mark Cohen. Used to be the host of the Improv. So after the Improv closed, Ray, as I already mentioned, Romano, John Stewart, Colin Quinn, they would all be back at his apartment hanging out till 6 or 7 in the morning. P.S. I had a real job, and I'm throwing them the flip out and get the hell out of here. But I always, the ability to make somebody laugh is really phenomenal. And, and I would steal their material. And as Jimmy knows, I don't have much original stuff, but I wanted to purposely learn this stuff because it's so much fun when you get everybody laughing and singing along. It's a win.
Good rapport with your audience, whoever's there, I'm sure.
Oh, it always, It's that good combination,
right.
Because I'll do all those jokes, but then I can go through most of the Cat Stevens catalog or most of the James Taylor and the Croce stuff, and that is the type of stuff that's more tearjerking.
Yeah. So sure. It's a great combo. So hey,
no doubt.
The time went quick. I don't even know if we didn't talk much about your Ask the Mayor thing. We can't let that do it another time. Maybe the mayor will come back. We can do that. We just want to thank you for coming on. We like to call you Jimmy Melody, but you got James Melody.
No, Jimmy, Jimbo. I'm happy to be called by any address in any way. But listen, I'm a fan of your guys' show. I've been watching it for the last couple of years. I was honored that you asked me to come in, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate you coming in. And P.S., like I said, check out my video on YouTube and my Patriots fight song, which I'd love everybody to check out. We want more reviews. I thought at the time my Christmas song was kind of cooking, and I didn't want to confuse the product. I kind of viewed them as 2 different products. So the Patriot Fight song is on Facebook under Jethro Carroll. I created an alias, and you'd have to go to Facebook, Jethro Carroll, and my specific reason for Jethro Carroll is, if you can believe it, Jethro was one of the most popular names in colonial America. So a lot of people are surprised to hear. I Googled it. I tried to do a little market research before I came up with it. And John Carroll was the only Roman Catholic who signed the Declaration of Independence. He was from Maryland. Yeah. So I sold my Jethro Carroll, and I'm dressed in colonial garb, and it's called We're All Patriots. I love my Patriot Fight song, too. Right. And and hopefully we'll get the social media together, and we'll see you out at the local establishment sooner than later.
All right, and so we'll do that, and we're going to close the show with a song. I know on Ask the Mayor you guys like to close with With the,
That's our running on Ask the Mayor. We always, because it's a ripoff of Ask the Manager that used to air on 38 when we were all growing up TV 38. So at the end of the show, we always conclude by saying, tune in for a show, an old rerun that might be on 38. So
I Dream of Jeannie.
Or the Banana Splits. Or
whatever, something like that. But we're going to be a little more serious today. Your song To Weymouth, which has a lot of great references for anybody who might, even if you don't relate, I'm sure you can relate. But there's a lot of Weymouth folks in Abington and on YouTube. So,
it's kind of ubiquitous, you know. I was purposely trying to write a song about our hometowns. You know, we're all not from the same hometown, but that hometown vibe that doesn't. I don't know if it exists as much as it used to when we were little. I know it doesn't, as a matter of fact. So that sense of community in our hometowns and that sense of belonging, and of course we're all grateful for our phenomenal moms and dads. So it's a family, song that's intended to, tug at your heartstrings and recall your grown-up days in hometown. So that's my To Weymouth, and Weymouth's a great town. As is Abington, as there's so many other ones out there, and I hope it strikes a note with all the viewers.
All right, great. Well, hey, thanks for coming on. Thanks to our host, guest host Dan Cody, as always, and the crew, Kevin Tachi and his wonderful crew here. So we'll see you next time on The Gig Show. Here is Jim or James Melody with To Weymouth.
The snow came down on Wasagasset. There were one or two boats still there. They seemed cold. I bet it looked this way 100 years ago. If I saw it for hours, it would never get old. The land of our father's pride, our mothers were by their side. The place where our family has always called home. I've been to Paris, I saw the Eiffel Tower. I've been to Dublin and had a pint or two. And in Vienna, I brought a lovely woman, but my heart always stayed true to Weymouth. The night was dark, but you could see forever. I was standing on Great Hill, almost touched the full moon. They saw these stars 400 years ago. What an honor to be a part of that history. The land of our father's pride, our mothers were by their side. The place where our family has always called home. I've been to Paris, I saw the Eiffel Tower. I went to Dublin and had a pint or two. And in Vienna, I met a lovely woman, but my heart always stayed true to Weymouth. Snow came down on Wasagasset. There were one or two boats still there. They seemed cold. I bet it looked this way 100 years ago. If I saw it for hours, it would never get old. Land of our father's pride, our mothers were by their side. The place where our family has always called home. I've been to Paris, I saw the Eiffel Tower. Went to Dublin and I had more than a pint or two. And in Vienna, I met a lovely woman, but my heart always has stayed true to Weymouth. Yes, my heart always will be true to Weymouth, to Weymouth.